Because you're jumping back into the gap.
Hey coach, welcome to the Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Oliver. I appreciate you joining us for this week's podcast. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and visit basketballimmersion.com for more coaching resources and access to all the basketball podcasts. I hope you will give us a shout out on social media, on Twitter at @BBallImmersion, or on Instagram at @BasketballImmersion to help me continue to share the game. Enjoy the episode. Awesome today to get to talk with Sergio Scariolo, who is currently an assistant coach for the Toronto Raptors and the head coach of the Spanish national team and a former EuroLeague head coach. Welcome to the podcast, Sergio.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A pleasure.
Well, pleasure for me. A real treat. You have had incredible success at all levels of coaching, and it's going to be so fun to deep dive into so many different things with you. But maybe let's start with something like, what is something from your EuroLeague national team experience and background that you've been able to bring to the NBA that may not have been as present before or as used before?
Well, it would be pretty arrogant, right? Say that I brought there something which was not there before me. I think in general, European basketball has a lot to learn and a lot to add to NBA basketball, for sure. The big difference is the talent, the athleticism, the physical talent, the skills which NBA players master at the way higher speed, let's say average speaking, than most of the European players. Strategy wise, there are a lot of things which NBA already imported from Europe. Smartest NBA coaches have watched a lot of European basketball and have not stolen but copied and got pretty huge number of situations of half court sets of baseline out of bound plays, for example, some defensive adjustment as well. I mean, there is a huge room for both competitions and for both industries to get the best of the other one, and that's great because from Europe you had to always try to see what happened in the NBA. Of course, not everything which is implemented there could be just moved to Europe and used right away, but there is a stuff, and at the same time there is pretty good amount of situations here which are have been used in Europe, which could be reproduced and actually used in the NBA like it actually is.
So I feel like you're uniquely qualified in a sense because unlike a lot of other European coaches that are assistants in the NBA, you are currently coaching a team in Europe as well with the national team. So that's why you kind of can go back and forth and apply things. So I'm curious then from the NBA, what are some things that you've taken back to your coaching?
Well, it's to me is challenging because I'm shifting from assistant coach position to the head coach position, back to the assistant coach position, global view as a head coach, more specific view as a Toronto Raptors offensive coordinator is a little bit. It's challenging. It's fun also because I feel that I have a lot of chances to improve and to grow and to learn. And to even, let's say, demand to myself to be the eight of the situation in both situations, both teams, in both competitions. And so basically, my personal challenge is, try to understand exactly where I am, who are my players in that specific moment. What I can propose and what is just it's just better to keep it for maybe later time. It's really interesting to have this double, let's say, double function, double position, and be able to respond to the expectations in both.
Well, I love it because I think a lot of coaches are facing this. Obviously, with the pandemic, there was a tons of online learning, a ton of online learning times for coaches, and almost we all got too much information. And I imagine that's a challenge for you too. Is you get some exciting ideas, or you learn some exciting things, or some new ways of doing something, but you can't use it all, can you? When you go back to your other experience coaching as a head coach.
Well, more than yeah, I listened to a few clinics which I was specifically interested into, but most of the I spend most of my time watching games, with a different view and mentality, right? Not having to think how to scout the team or how to play against the team, or how to try to stop them, or how to try to score against their defense, but just to watch them, to enjoy the different styles, the different systems, and try to get some stuff. I would say that after that, say, quarantine or lockdown of February, March, and basically March, April, and May, I got some stuff which we use already in June, in the restart, in the NBA restart with the Raptors. Some other stuff there was no time to do it, and we'll probably able to use it now from December 1st in our training camp. But it's true. I mean, there is a lot of information online. You can't, of course, try to listen to everything, to watch everything, because it's really important that you try also to digest information and to adjust and to understand what is really useful for you, and what you can reproduce with your two different teams. But it's definitely a great time for people who needs to learn online, because there have been a lot of information, a lot of different clinics, a lot of games and opportunity to improve and to learn.
When you watch these games, were you watching NBA games? Were you watching European, international games? What were some of the games then? If you can, without giving away a secret, maybe, can you give us an idea of one of the things that you took away?
Well, basically, I'm watching NBA games and EuroLeague games. Let's say mostly. It doesn't mean that I haven't watched, for example, couple of Champions League games, or a couple of ACB League games, or a couple of Italian League games, or mostly this. But I mean, the you just percentage of my time was spent watching NBA playoffs, basically, and EuroLeague games. So in terms of what I took was, I can't go too specific, because it's like saying, yeah, remember that time, that minute in that game.
Of course.
It's a little bit difficult to do that. But for example, there have been a couple of situations of 5-on-5, half-court 5-on-5 situation from Barcelona, which I liked. One other from Bayern Munich, one from Armani Milan. I like a couple of very interesting Wrinkles from the Miami Heat during the conference final. I mean, I can tell you a long list, but the important thing is that you are open to. I mean, you watch the game with open eyes and readiness to catch stuff and to try to say, make a picture of what you saw and reproduce them maybe right away on a paper to and save them, not to forget them.
Coach, just focusing on EuroLeague, maybe what are coaches who don't watch the EuroLeague yet? What are some things that we can tell them about why they should watch EuroLeague? I watch EuroLeague extensively. What are some things that would say, hey, as a coach, you should watch a EuroLeague because?
Well, I think that beside the NBA, that's the highest basketball level all over the world. I mean, there are a lot of excellent offensive sets, zone offenses, baseline and out of bound. There is a pretty huge amount of adjustment wrinkles on the basic set plays which everybody use, but you can find interesting adjustments. And you must learn. You can learn about players. You can learn about players who are maybe going to play in the NBA in the next future, or who were playing in the NBA before and now are playing in EuroLeague, and they're either struggling or succeeding. Is pretty interesting as a basketball fan, and even as a professional. I know that all the scouts, all the front offices in the NBA have one or two person who are following really, really close EuroLeague.
This is not to say that one is better than the other, but I'm curious from the standpoint of when you watch offense specifically in the EuroLeague, you see multiple actions, masking actions before the main action. You see sets that are a little bit more developed than you would in the NBA, where sets seem to be a little bit more direct. Can you talk to that a little bit and explain maybe why we see the differences in that?
Well, first of all, I think that the set offense is not that difference. I mean, the big difference is that most of the NBA possessions are run in a transition mode without stopping the ball and calling a play in a running mode, and then continuing off a drag, of a double drag, hitting the second trailer and getting into a 5-out, motion offense or stuff like that. Then in the set offense, it's true that maybe EuroLeague situation or European situation overall are a little bit more. Maybe they have one pass more, or in Euro we would like to start the offense on one side, make the defense collapse on one side, and then change side to the other way, and send the strong attack right on the other side. But again, I tell you, in the NBA there are many teams who are running a little bit longer offense when they are into a set half-court set offense. Then of course everybody here, I mean, in the NBA is almost inconceivable that if you get a defensive rebound or if you have a steal, you just walk the ball down and call a set play. In the NBA, is just push it, throw it ahead, or push it to the lane, try to have a paint touch and play off there and go in transition. In Europe, you can still see several possessions were not really high tempo, but again in the real set offense, you can see many NBA teams who are running their offense, and I wouldn't say following European principle because it's not true, but I'd say on a common path with most of European.
Hey, Coach, a quick interruption from this episode for a mention from our supporters who, without them, this podcast would not be possible. By using the links I mentioned in these advertisements, it enables me to continue providing this podcast for free for you. The wait is finally over. Football is in full effect, with many teams strutting their stuff. You might not be at a game this year, but you can still be in on the action at BetOnline. BetOnline is going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on everything imaginable this season. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any place online. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code ARMCHAIR, that's ARMCHAIR in all capitals, to take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. It's cool to hear, and so many coaches. I just encourage you to watch EuroLeague if you don't yet. And Coach, I mean, got to ask you, what is something about Spanish basketball development that the rest of the world is possibly missing that we don't quite understand? Because obviously Spanish basketball success has been tremendous in the development of players, the development of teams. Are there a few things that maybe the rest of the world doesn't quite understand about Spanish basketball that's led to this success?
Well, I think, if you think about Spanish basketball, you have to really separate, let's say, club team like Real Madrid, like Barcelona, like Baskonia, like Unicaja, like Valencia, and the national team. I mean, from say the club teams, you can see that most of them are some of the best organized with the best budget, with the best tradition, with a solid mentality coming of many years of top level basketball. They know how to do to put the team in the right condition to win and to play their. I mean, to focus only on playing basketball. I mean, the best structure most of the time, fit up and allow the presence of the best teams, the best rosters on the floor. National team is a little bit different because we had to go through several different moment in our history with different I would say generations, which that one after each other, after the other one, starting from the guy who were born in the 1980, like Pau Gasol, Raul Lopez, Juan Carlos Navarro, all these guys who really made the difference. And there was a before and an after that generation. They won the Junior World Cup. And after winning the European World Championship, then they get into let's say inflated into the national team, a new spirit, new atmosphere, new let's say demanding, ambitious, challenging, self-confident mentality in order to feel able to compete against everybody. That's what really made the difference. Then we had to adjust to the time going by and having them get off their best days and putting new guys on new generations, guys born in the 85, 86, 87, like Marc Gasol, Rudy Fernandez, then Sergio Rodriguez, Sergi Yul. And then getting into the 90s with Ricky Rubio, the Hernan Gomez brothers. So I mean, our job is more of trying to make this change of the generation sustainable and taking the best of what the teams. I mean, the club teams are doing in terms of developing players, in terms of making their talent grow.
It's tremendous. It's been so fun to watch and definitely a must-watch team all the time. So, Coach, getting into your technical, tactical philosophy a little bit, I saw in an interview you mentioned two of your non-negotiables: share the ball, everybody play defense. Everything else you can add, subtract, add wrinkles to, but those are your non-negotiables. Is that still hold true for you?
Absolutely. I think there is definitely no shortcut to this. Then, I mean, it doesn't mean that everybody should handle the ball during the same amount of time, or that everybody should be a great defensive player, because this is, of course, not realistic. But what I want to see is the desire to share the ball and the desire to play defense, the will of playing for the team offensively, and the will of challenging myself to give my best to my team defensively. Then, of course, my if I am not a great defensive player, my best will not be the same as a great defensive player best, right? But at least I'm putting the effort there, and then trying to go from 3 to 5 or to from 5 to 6. I will not be a 10, but I will try, and even I will show to my teammates that I'm really trying, even if I am mostly an offensive player. And same same stuff, same for the offense. I mean, of course, there are players who have more talent and who will be allowed to handle the ball a little bit more and to take a little bit more difficult shots than maybe other players. But at the same time, I don't like selfish players. I mean, there is there is a big difference from somebody who knows that his responsibility is to score and is stepping up in the hot moments, in the clutch time, and short clock or whatever. Then people who from minute one on after a couple of passes of the offensive possession want to take a shot no matter what, or don't want to recognize that two people are on them and somebody's wide open.
Love it. And it's really boils down to pretty simple things, right? Share the ball, play defense as a starting point for the whole culture that you're going to establish. I'm imagining, especially in a short time that you have your team together in these national team experiences.
Yeah, I've been blessed with players who are really embracing this mentality, who want to play, who really want to see the team win, and are really not caring that much about their own stats, their own numbers. So I've been really lucky to. Of course, I had to also do my part of the job, trying to help them and try to implement and develop this mentality. But at the same time, I have great player, great example leaders who were able to show with example and say with the from peer to peer, right? With players' words, what do we mean for our identity, our style, our way of playing basketball, putting the team first, and understanding that this is the only way for us to overachieve like did during the last, I would say, 12 years in the international basketball, with less for sure, less athleticism, less physicality, a little bit less talent as well. But playing as a team, being as a family, behaving like a group of people who are really caring for each other, wants to, a group of this kind of a characteristic wants to show on the floor that he really loves what he does. It really loves his teammates and performing as a team in long story short.
Love it. Love hearing it. And I know a number of the Toronto Raptors and Raptor 9 or 5 young coaches, and they all suggested that one thing I talked to you about is having an A, B, and C plan going into a game. Can you talk about that and the importance of that?
Well, this is coming from my experience. I mean, of course, we work a lot on our game plan, right? And we spend a lot of hours to watch films and to think about strategies and to think about what could work best against that opponent and so on. But at the same time, we had to be smart enough and understand that I would say I don't want to give a percentage, but there is a pretty huge percentage of cases where your plan A, your game plan, your main game plan is not going to work because the players are for whatever reason are not able to implement it as coaches thought, or because the opponent is finding a counter pretty early in the game, or because something changed in your lineup or in the opponent lineup for whatever reason. So I like to not to be forced under pressure to improvise and invent something brand new, but to spend part of my time before the game to think about what could happen, during the game, what could happen because the opponent, what kind of a wrinkle, what kind of a reaction the opponent could put on the floor, what should we do in that case, what could be a second option into our strategy if the first option is not working. I mean, I believe that we have to be ready. We have to be ready and respect our opponent and know that there are no games where you start with three ideas, and those three ideas will lead you to the win no matter what, no matter who's the opponent, no matter if you're making shots or not. I mean, this is a little bit arrogant, right? I'm not that either I'm not that good or I don't want to be that arrogant to believe that my game plans will be always working no matter what.
Such a great point. And like knowing that these are possibilities, how do you convey them to your team? Is this something that you go through during game day walkthroughs, or is this just something in the back of your mind that you can adjust within the game?
No. We get in the game with our main game plan, and especially the other option very very firmly and kind of printed out in our pocket. I mean, we don't want to. Of course, every assistant coach has his own area, but again, we want to make sure that we don't need to see three straight consecutive bad possession offensively or defensively to understand that this is not going to work, and that we had to change a little bit our strategy. I mean, I prefer to work before and to know what eventually can't be perfect, and having the chance immediately to try what we believe that can work second, or what kind of a matchup adjustment we had to put on the floor, or what kind of a set plays adjustment or wrinkles would be better to use against one lineup or another lineup, or with our own main lineup, or with our backups, for example. I mean, there are a lot of situations where which are a little bit are not really getting into our main game plan, because you can't paralyze by analyze, right? Your players, proposing them too much of a big game plan before the game. It's better keep it for you as a coach, or for you as a coaching staff, and then use them during the game, and just have the players getting in the game with those 4 or 5 offensively or defensively main concept which you believe had more possibility to work.
So can you take us into a game day shoot and your philosophy around game day walkthroughs, game day shoot arounds?
Well, I like to start. Well, that's also dependent on how many practice we had before. Probably most of the time, best case scenario, we have one practice before, or maybe none. So I would start walking through a couple of situations of our opponent, which we 2 or 3 basically. Let's say a 50% speed with no really full contact, which I believe are really the ones who, let's say, which we will, I would say, struggle to guard, but which will be more challenging for us to guard, right? And then I like to have my team, shoot a little bit in a game fashion, taking game shots for positions in a different half court of the floor, different baskets, and then get back all together and work a little bit on our sets. And our sets means that we will refresh something which we didn't do well in our last game, or something which we put in, brand new for that game, or sometimes we put 2 or 3 players or coaches being like in a shell mode and showing the defense. Our opponent we foresee they will be showing us at the beginning, and then finish with just shooting and competing. I like to finish with the shooting competitions, different kind of shooting competitions, giving them a sweet taste when they leave the gym after having competed in a pretty fun way.
Maybe coming back a little bit to Spanish basketball, I had a chance to visit Real Madrid, Barcelona, Badalona, some places like that, and watch some of their youth development. And the one thing that struck me that I brought back to many coaches here is this concept of giving players more freedom to be creative. That at a really young age, you saw them be put in situations where they were allowed to come up with solutions that weren't restricted by the coach. I hope I'm making myself clear. But for example, the one-hand pass. I was seeing 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds throw one-hand passes. Can you talk about that creativity and that emphasis on allowing players to have freedom?
Definitely. I believe that especially in the Spanish, schools, like most of them are sections of the pro teams, right?
Yep.
That's a big difference also existing here in European basketball with the a pro team in US, like in the NBA team. NBA team can have a G League team, a second team, but not of course 14, 15, 16, 18 years old teams. It's one of the things which coaches work better here is to teach them how to play. It's not a matter only of technique or fundamental. It's a matter of teaching them how to use them, when to use them, and against what kind of defensive reaction to use them. This is the main difference I see when I watch high school games or top U18 European games. I mean, in Europe, players learn earlier how to play basketball. In most of the high school, there is a lot more of talent, a lot more athleticism, but I don't see a really deep care of teaching how to play team basketball, how to read and react. And when we get in the NBA and we receive players coming off maybe 1 year college, 2 years college, this is what we are missing more. That they don't know how to play, but they can know how to play one-on-one, how to dribble, how to dunk, how to drive, maybe how to shoot, but know how to make the right decision on the floor. The decision making is worked and developed and taken care for sure much more in the U16, U17, U18 program, in one of the top, of course, European program, than in I would say most of the US high school.
So is that just a question of the drills coaches use and the emphasis they have in practice? Because again, you do see, if you go to high school practices, by and large, you see a lot more drill based rather than game based play. Is that really what we would see in the Spanish system? Is we'd see more small sided games, 3-on-3, more game based play?
Yeah, you can say that. But then again, you can run 3-on-3 and then not taking care of the detail. You had to correct. You had to 3-on-3, 2-on-2, 4-on-4, 5-on-5. You had to make them understand why they are doing something and why they are not doing something. What they will do if the opponent react that way to your initiative. You will do if the opponent react in another way to your initiative. Is he giving you a right-hand drive? Is he giving you a pull-up jump shot? Is he giving you a step-back three? I mean, it requires a lot of time and a lot of instruction and a repetition, and then you're right. I mean, you get into your 3-on-3, 4-on-4. That's a base to teach players how to play team basketball.
I love that you said that. You have to correct. And I want to emphasize that again. You have to correct, because I see so many practices where there's no stopping and coaching and talking about the situations. And mainly, as we've already talked about, talking about the possibilities, because there aren't always just absolutes, right? Players have possibilities, and that's where you can stop and correct and highlight. Can you talk to me about that process of stopping to correct?
Well, you have to find a good balance between have them, go in a motion, in a good flow, and stopping and correcting. It's a matter of recognize what kind of mistake they did, because sometimes a mistake is just a mistake. It's not, let's say, an execution mistake. It's not a decision-making mistake. In this case, most of the time it doesn't really make sense to stop and correct, stop the whole team and correct the player, because we're probably more effective to bring him into the gym next day, half an hour before, or after practice, having him stay a little bit more in the gym to work on a specific fundamentals. But when a mistake is pretty much repeated from many players, or is a repeated decision-making mistake from one single specific player, you get to a point where you have to stop and correct, because otherwise it's going to be extremely difficult for the players to understand what they have to do, what they are supposed to do. If they go immediately to the next session, maybe they run up and down the floor two, three more times, and then they forget what they did wrong when you try to recall it in a later on. So it's a matter of experience give you that feeling of, hey, this is a mistake which we can correct just live with your voice. And this is a mistake which requires you to stop the whole team and to show that is a pretty critical, issue, and you don't want your team take back bad habit written there.
Hey, Coach, a quick interruption from this episode for a mention from our supporters, who, without them, this podcast would not be possible. By using the links I mentioned in these advertisements, it enables me to continue providing this podcast for free for you. The wait is finally over. Football is in full effect, with many teams strutting their stuff. You might not be at a game this year, but you can still be in on the action at BetOnline. BetOnline is going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on everything imaginable this season. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any place online. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code ARMCHAIR, that's ARMCHAIR in all capitals, to take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Listen up, fellows, because today we have a new Manscaped product alert. Manscaped just released the Weed Whacker Nose and Ear Hair Trimmer. Take a look in the mirror and I guarantee you'll see hair sticking out of those holes. It's time to keep your ear and nose hair looking as nice as your clean-shaven pubes. Manscaped is forever changing the grooming game with their Weed Whacker. The nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. The premium Manscaped Weed Whacker uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. Its intelligently contoured design enhances the trimming experience, and it is waterproof, which makes for easy operation and cleaning. Look, fellas, 79% of partners polled admitted that long nose hair is a major turnoff. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code ARMCHAIR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code ARMCHAIR. What are you waiting for? Go whack your weed. Thank you, Manscaped, for keeping our pubes trimmed and hairs in our holes looking nice. Now back to the podcast. I love talking about the teaching process, and hopefully we'll be able to get into a little bit of the teaching process with this next topic, which you've obviously made very popular, which is Spanish pick and roll. And maybe let's start with just a general one. Why is it so difficult to defend, in your opinion?
Well, I'm not sure that it's that difficult to defend, but it's true that there is still kind of a surprise factor over there. I mean, a back pick is always something which can happen, happen in many different situations before. But if you add it to a pick and roll situation, which is already a pretty used and common one, where players are feeling comfortable and probably one of the most used, right? In nowadays basketball. So if you put together a situation like pick and roll where players feel comfortable, very comfortable right now, mid pick and roll mostly, and the back pick, which is something always pretty annoying or uncomfortable to defend. That mix could be pretty effective. Even if I've seen excellent Spanish pick and roll defense during this last years, and I have personally with my team had to adjust and to find new wrinkles and new adjustment, especially new readings. I mean, not new, but smart readings of what the defense, the best defenses have been trying to do against this section, in order not to fold it and put it into a drawer, but trying to keep using it, but probably in a little bit different way.
Well, and it speaks back to the teaching process, because the next part of this is obviously it's the decisions that make it so difficult to defend, right? So what are some of the instructions you give to the ball handler in his decision making when he's using the Spain pick and roll?
Well, mostly he has to find the balance between being aggressive, advancing the ball, but making the decision to put his head down and go for a drive only if he's really, really sure that there is a clear path to the basket. I mean, he got to find a way to be at the same time, threatening a drive or a pull-up, but in control in order to read if the lob pass is available or if the swing pass to the guy who's set in the back pick and popping out if he's open. So it's a matter of it's nothing new. I mean, you have to be able to make reads at high speed, because if you are only aggressive, probably you will miss some read. If you want only to read, you will miss opportunity to score, right? So your ball handler got to find that thin balance between being aggressive to the rim, but at the same time being a facilitator if the best option is throw a pass to one of your teammates.
So you've talked about some of the details and the subtleties of this. So is there a preferred angle on the back screen to start with? If you're talking to a high school coach that's teaching this for the first time, is there a preferred angle on the back screen?
Well, you have to be able to read how the ball handler defensive player is playing, and how the big guy defensive player is playing. You don't have you can have a flat angle, which normally for back pick is the best starting one, but then you have to be able to adjust your angle if you read that their defense is different and they are changing their stance because they want to be more aggressive, or they want to stay more in a drop coverage. I mean, the starting point is a flat, strong back pick. But for example, if you realize that your man is out to switch on the ball handler, you have to slip out and run away. And what we are trying to do is run away as far as we can from the ball, instead of just kind of 8 feet away from the ball, where maybe that small switch is gonna work better. I mean, there are many different situations which You have to be able to recognize, read the react, and we want to show them to our players beforehand, because as we were saying before, that the defensive reaction or the offensive reactions are pretty limited. I mean, there is of course a pretty good number of options, but they're not infinite. I mean, they're kind of limited to a few ones, especially the most used ones, and you got to know them whole in order to be able to recognize them and to be able to choose the best reaction when you see that your opponent is running that specific reaction to your initiative.
So I'm wondering, with all this experience, having used it and been defended against in many ways through your years, is there a method of defense that you've found to be the most disruptive or the best choice? I mean, assuming you have the personnel to do it.
Yeah, but I don't want to do it, to say it.
That's understandable, Coach. That's understandable.
I mean,
can you give us a few then? So we have to try and guess which one.
Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, if you guard the ball, and if you are able to go over the first ball screen in a great way, then offensively you are in trouble, because there is one man in front of the ball. No help was needed from the big man. Big man can try to focus on his own man, roll to the basket. So who's guarding the back screener doesn't have to worry about helping the helper. I mean, when no help is needed, everything is easier, right? So everything can start from how the guy who's on the ball guards the ball.
So you talked about wrinkles a little bit. I know one of the wrinkles is the player set in the back screen, instead of popping ups, is now flaring to the 45 on a weak side cut, so that the defense is distorted in terms of trying to find him or her. So are there some other wrinkles that you can share with us that coaches should look at when they watch some of these EuroLeague or NBA games, seeing teams run Spain pick and roll?
Well, if you have a pop shooter at the 5, you can, instead of making a back pick, making a pin in for him. Or instead of a back pick, it can be a pin down, where the 5, instead of getting a back pick, is screening the screening guard, the supposedly screening guard, so setting a screen for him instead of receiving a screen for him. There are different links according to the different defensive reaction and how we know they are going to play that pick and roll, the skills of the defensive player we are going to play against. But those two, I would say, the one you mentioned is basically the best one. I mean, instead of popping out on the middle of the floor, popping out to the side and clearing that side in order to not allow the defensive reaction. That's for sure. That if played well, if implemented in a almost, let's say, in an excellent way, that's for sure the best way to play against any kind of defensive reaction. But again, those two I added could also work, especially again when we are able to read what the defensive big man is doing.
Have you had much experience with moving the Spain pick and roll action to different locations on the floor? Because essentially it's a simple action that can be moved. We can run it from the wing, we can run it from the slot, the mid post, wherever. Have you had any experience moving it around?
Yes, I did. I mean, I do have some more experience of this, moving it more to the side, but I would say that the nail to nail area is still the best way where you want to run it. I mean, if you want to run it to the side, you have to make sure that your opponent is not good sending the ball to the corner, like people call in ice or blue way, right? if this can really bother your Spanish speaker, or if you run it on the side. I mean, in the middle is much better, and you'll probably run it against most of the defense you may face in a basketball game.
That's cool. It's cool to hear, obviously, all these differences and all these unique parts of the Spain pick and roll, and all the different actions that are masking it now. So people are hiding what's coming with all these masking actions as well. So it's going to be fun to see it moving forward. Shifting gears a little bit, Coach, maybe into scouting reports, because I definitely want to use your expertise. You've talked about having short turnarounds, international play. Sometimes, you only have a walkthrough essentially to get ready for the next game. Can you talk about scouting reports and maybe some of the things that you feel are most important?
Well, that's interesting because I have in my double with a double function. I have at the same time a proposer of a scouting report and a receiver of a scouting report. So I say that as a head coach, what I want to receive from my assistant coaches is both in both the defensive and the offensive game plan proposal, clear ideas about priorities. So make sure which are the priorities to do a good defensive or offensive job on that game. On the let's say difficulties which our player will probably face in the game, and the option we have, not just to stop them or to play against them, but to surprise them. So as an assistant coach, when I give my offensive game plan to Coach Nurse, what I'm trying to do is make sure everybody know what kind of defensive coverage we will probably find, which are the different defensive level, physically and tactically, of the difference of a different player we're going to face in that game, which kind of our action would probably work better against those coverages, against those players, which kind of our main sets would probably work better against them, and what kind of a different defense we may face, let's say, different than the man that, the straight basic man-to-man defense. This is mostly what I want to make sure that I'm able to try and to send to my head coach, and most of the time it's just okay, I get it, and just bring it to the player and make sure they are on board.
Well, and again, you brought up the Raptors' experience with playing multiple defenses and different things like that, but also there's just more switching, happening at all levels of basketball. So I'm curious then, how much detail do you go into, or would you go into, for individual matchups, especially knowing that different players are going to end up with different matchups throughout this switching process?
Well, first of all, let's say from a system point of view, I want to make sure that my switching is, from a defensive standpoint, I want to make sure that my switching is effective. I mean, I don't want my team to become a switching team because players are lazy, because they find it easier. I want to have numbers. I want to have a proof that what we are doing is really working, and I want to interface different options, and make a confrontation from one coverage with the switching, in which situation is working better, in which situation is not working, with which players is working, with which players is working a little bit worse. So I don't like the switch just for the sake of it, right? I think that the bottom line is we have to be effective. So if our switching defense is effective because we, let's say the switching partners are both able to guard mismatches without needing too much of a help around, that's fine for me. That's great. But if we had to start to make double teams, oversagging, collapsing, leaving players open. Too much of a speculation to support to switching partners who are not able to guard and to hold their new opponent in a pretty much straight one-on-one way. Then is when my alarm lights start flashing into my head and say, wait, I want to make sure that we are doing this kind of a coverage. We are switching because it's really working, not because let alone short clock situation. I mean, it can be 5 seconds, 6 seconds, or 8 seconds, whatever. That's a different issue. But in general, at the beginning of the possession, I'm not a big fan of again switching for the sake of it.
Great stuff. Coach, I mean, so much experience and much knowledge. And maybe just as we wrap this up, throughout your extensive coaching career across the globe, what are some of the most important lessons you have learned as a coach?
Well, to learn, that's a lesson. You always can learn, always, from any colleague, any professional, any non-professional coach. I learned a couple of drills from coaches who were coaching my own son when he was under 14, under 15, under 16. I mean, be ready and open to learn. Go watch other guys coaching, not to criticize or to say to yourself, I can do that, I am better than that, but just try to really be open and keep your heart humble and open to understand why he's doing that. Would that work with you? Could you still something? Could you think over what you saw and make it a way of a point of improvement for your own knowledge, for your own system? So learn. And the second is listen. And when I say listen, mostly I would say listen to your players, because they are probably the ones who can really help you more in improving as a coach and in understanding what your team needs to be a better team. So put them in the right atmosphere, make them be comfortable to tell you what they really feel, not what you want to hear from them, but what they really feel like they want to communicate to you. And then, allow them to finish their speeches. I mean, don't interrupt. Make sure you are really listening with your ears and with your brain activated. I mean, be a good listener to make a long story short. Be a good learner and be a good listener.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing the game with us, Coach. For any basketball coaches out there, the EHCB Coaches Academy online program is something you need to check out, featuring Coach Sergio and 19 other basketball masterminds. I really encourage you all to check it out. There really is no other program like it. Go to @headcoaches.org on Twitter or headcoaches.org/coaches-academy. On the website. And Coach, thank you for sharing the game with us.
No problem at all. Thank you for hosting me.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and to give the Basketball Podcast and this week's guest a shout out on social media to show your support for us sharing the game. And to stay up to date on all things Basketball Immersion, subscribe to our newsletter at basketballimmersion.com/newsletter.